No matter what threat level you're at, the Multiverse team is one of those teams that's really hard to beat. Today I'm going to show you guys a couple of tips and tricks so you can beat them just a little bit easier. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. The Multiverse team is one of the biggest and most diverse teams in the entire game, which means that usually we would have to go through a lot of different characters. However, thankfully, well, I guess it's actually a bad thing, but thankfully for me, the main OP characters that you're almost always going to be seeing in Arena is going to be Multiverse Armored Supergirl and Multiverse the Flash. 99% of the time, those two are going to be paired because they just feed off of each other really well. They're both damage dealers. Well, Multiverse the Flash is a little bit weaker, but he's still a combo builder and he can still be doing a lot of damage. On the side, you're usually going to be seeing Multiverse Regular Supergirl and Multiverse Green Arrow. So those are going to be the other two characters that we're going to be considering in this video. However, like I just said, we're going to mainly focus on taking out Multiverse Armored Supergirl and Multiverse the Flash. The biggest threat to us in terms of specials is going to be Multiverse Armored Supergirl Special 1. Because no matter what you do, even if you have a reflective shield, or even if you're really tanky, it just does a lot of damage, and it's dot damage, which means it's going to be going through any sort of barrier you're going to be putting it through. Usually a lot of people like to use Hellboy because he, generates health if he gets hit by dot damage. But me personally, I don't really use him too much when I combat Multiverse Armored Supergirl, because another thing we have to worry about is her Special 3, and we also have to be worrying about, actually doing a lot of damage towards her. And I don't think Hellboy does a really good job at that, especially if Multiverse Armored Supergirl is paired up with either Green Arrow or regular Supergirl, because they add a lot of tankiness towards her. So one of my favorite teams to use against the Multiverse team is actually the Batman Ninja team, since Catwoman has that immortal ability. I will be showing you a couple of different teams, but this one is just absolutely my favorite because they can do a lot of damage and they're super tanky, and they're basically unkillable for a couple of seconds, which means that you're basically guaranteed to be killing the Multiverse team pretty dang quickly, right? And they also heal on top of that. Catwoman could add a blind and add dot damage as well. So yeah, they're just an absolute no-brainer. They can basically defeat anybody in the game, and they can definitely defeat the Multiverse team. But don't worry if you do not have the Batman Ninja team. I will be showing you a couple of different teams that you could be using, and you're also going to be seeing all the different teams that I use in the background in the gameplay. So aside from the Batman Ninja team, one of my favorite characters to be using against the Multiverse team is also King of Atlantis Aquaman, because if in any case he were to be hit by a really hard special, he can always come to life, because he regenerates according to how many power bars he has. On top of using King of Atlantis Aquaman, I like either using Shazam or Dr. Fate, and I almost always put Nightwing in there because he's a really great tank and a really great support. You're almost always going to be fighting Multiverse the Flash, and Multiverse the Flash almost always has a lot of fast attack, and his fast attack hits are 3, which means that if you have Nightwing tagged in, you could just be blocking all the way and you're going to be generating power like crazy. Also, the really great thing about having these 3 characters, you can pick whichever one you want on the side of King of Atlantis Aquaman, is that if you have Nightwing, you have the ability to power drain. If you have Shazam, you can heal. If you have Dr. Fate, which can be a really great support, because if you're going to be spamming your specials of King of Atlantis Aquaman, you still want him to have a lot of power bars left over, so that if King of Atlantis Aquaman is hit by a really hard special by Multiverse Armored Supergirl, then he would still have a lot of power bars left over, so that if he dies, he could be coming back with a little bit more health. Anyways, this is my second favorite team to be using against the Multiverse team. The third team I use to fight the Multiverse team is my own Multiverse team. Now, I usually like to have Multiverse Armored Supergirl, Multiverse the Flash, and then I almost always put Multiverse Regular Supergirl. However, things start to become a little bit more complicated, because with the other two teams, we can rely on a couple of different things, like the Immortal passive and King of Atlantis Aquaman coming back, and the healing of Shazam and stuff like that. But with the Multiverse team on our side, we got to be a little bit more strategical, because again, the opponent of Multiverse Armored Supergirl can be doing a lot of damage. So here are a couple things that I do whenever I fight the Multiverse team with my own Multiverse team. The very first thing I check is character position. This is super important. You need to understand this concept, alright? If Multiverse Armored Supergirl as an opponent is starting off the battle, then my Multiverse Armored Supergirl will not be starting the battle, because I will usually be putting Multiverse Regular Supergirl, and then whenever I'm starting the fight and Multiverse Armored Supergirl, the opponent, is going to try to hit me with one of her specials, then I have my Multiverse Armored Supergirl tagged out so I could tag her in, so that way she can interrupt opponent Multiverse Armored Supergirl special, right? Everybody knows that she can interrupt specials whenever you tag her in, so you don't want to start her off if you're fighting Multiverse Armored Supergirl as an opponent, because you need to be able to interrupt, the opponent's specials. This is super, super important. Aside from that, if Multiverse Armored Supergirl opponent doesn't start off the battle, then I really don't mind where I put my Multiverse Armored Supergirl, whether that be starting off or whether that be in the back waiting to be tagged in so that she can interrupt a special. Usually though, because I have to think about tactics like this whenever I use my Multiverse team to fight the Multiverse team, I will just use my either Batman Ninja team or my King of Atlantis Aquaman team, just because they're a little bit easier and just a little bit less, I guess you could say, stressful to be using against the Multiverse team. The final two teams that I'm going to be recommending are actually a little bit more risky, so if you really want to use this team just to, have a little bit of fun, then just go ahead. But I don't necessarily recommend you go and do it. If you have the Batman Ninja team, use them instead. If you have the King of Atlantis team, use them instead. And if you have your own Multiverse team, use them instead. But these two teams are a little bit more fun. So the first team is actually a Raiden team. I'm not really going to tell you who you can be using on the side of support. Usually though, people like using Shazam or Dr. Fate or any other arcane characters. That way Raiden starts off with a little bit more power. Now obviously you already know what I'm going to be saying. You really want to use his special 3, Raiden's special 3, because it will be doing a ton of damage to opponents that are tagged out. So if Multiverse Armored Supergirl is tagged out, you can basically just insta-kill her if you use Raiden's special 3. However, you still have to worry about her tagging in and her doing a lot of damage. Even though she's at 0 health and you can one-shot her with like any hit at all, you still have to be a little bit careful. The AI can be, pulling off a couple of crazy things, like just dodging every single attack, or, sweeping in and, interrupting one of your specials, and then using Multiverse Armored Supergirl special 1, and then knocking you out. So this is a little bit more risky, and you do have to worry about opponent characters placement, because you almost always do not want to use Raiden when Multiverse Armored Supergirl is tagged in. But, this is a little bit more risky, but again, it is a little bit more fun. The second team I'm only kind of recommending is going to be the Justice League team. Now hear me out. Everybody knows that the Justice League team can be doing a lot of damage with their basic attack hits. And every once in a while you're going to get really lucky and you're going to be fighting a multiverse team that isn't really tanky. So fighting them is going to be a breeze with the Justice League team. However, that doesn't always happen, especially if you're fighting with the opponent having Multiverse regular Supergirl in their team, because that means that whenever they hit, half health, they're going to be taking half the damage. So you're going to be needing to put in a little bit more work. Now this is the really great thing about Justice League the Flash. Whenever you have him in your team, which you almost will be having, the 3 main characters you're going to want to be using is Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman. But whenever you have Justice League the Flash, that means that every single Justice League character is going to have one free ticket to use any sort of special ability that they want, and it will be unblockable. Now this is where Cyborg comes in, because his special 2 can power drain. We already established that they can be doing a lot of damage with their basic attack hits, so you should be able to take them out relatively quickly. But if you do have to worry about something, a little bit of a hiccup, or maybe just something going wrong, you can always rely on Cyborg's special 2 to be power draining. But just be careful, because if you are going to be using Cyborg against Multiverse the Flash, you might want to tag in another teammate, because, Multiverse the Flash, whenever he gets hit by a special by tech opponents, then he will just be, dodging it and just be coming back and slamming down on you. So again, just be a little bit more careful. This team isn't 100% recommended, but it is a little bit risky. It is a little bit of fun. I usually like to use this team whenever I'm already done playing Arena and I'm already guaranteed an Elite 4 position, and I maybe just want to have a little bit more fun. Plus, a little added bonus, I guess you could say, is if one of your characters does die and you do make a small mistake, you can always bring them back with Aquaman's super move. But again, this team is a little bit more risky. If you want to use any other team in this list, I just recommend that you go use them instead. They're a little bit more reliable. Now, I know that I focused in this video a lot about beating up Multiverse Armored Supergirl, and honestly, I did that for a reason. She is a huge threat. You need to take her very, very seriously. A match can turn in a second. You could be winning the match easily, but if the AI decides to go ham on you with Multiverse Armored Supergirl, you can die very, very fast. You need to be super strategical and super careful about how you're fighting. Now, again, I know I just focused on Multiverse Armored Supergirl, but usually if you're strong enough and tactical enough to beat her, you're going to be able to beat her support, including Multiverse the Flash, Multiverse Multiverse regular Supergirl, or Multiverse Green Arrow, and basically anybody else. Multiverse Armored Supergirl is such a big threat that she's on a whole new level compared to every single one of her teammates. So again, if you could beat her, you can beat them. The reason why I brought up Multiverse the Flash, Multiverse Green Arrow, and Multiverse regular Supergirl in the beginning of the video is because these characters usually optimize Multiverse Armored Supergirl to her max level. So again, if you can beat her with all of these characters by her side, you can basically defeat anybody and any team of the Multiverse team. Anyways, guys, that's basically it. I know there's a million different teams that you could probably be using to fight the Multiverse team, especially if you have some legendary characters, but I just didn't really want to include them, not only because I don't have them, but also because I know a lot of people don't have them. So I like to include characters that are really easy to get, like King of Atlantis, Aquaman, and your own Multiverse team, and the Batman Ninja team. Anyways, I didn't really show you guys how to tag in or tag out, teammates. I just kind of mentioned the thing about Multiverse Armored Supergirl, using her in your team. But the reason why I did this is because everything is pretty straightforward, right? When you're fighting Multiverse Armored Supergirl, obviously she's a damage dealer, so you want to have your tank in. And then obviously when you find a good window of opportunity, then you want to be able to tag in your damage dealer and just try to knock her out as best as you can. If you can't do this, just keep on trying, obviously with your tank being tagged in mainly so that way they can consume all of the damage. But I really tried to make it so that this list is built not just as, tanks being tanks, because I know I said that tanks can be knocked out by Multiverse Armored Supergirl really, really easily. So I also try to focus on, damage dealers that can still be pretty strong and pretty well-rounded, kind of like the Batman Ninja team and kind of like King of Atlantis Aquaman. Those two are going to be the main teams that I recommend, which is why I put them in the beginning. Anyways, I hope this video helped you guys out. Don't worry if you go fight the Multiverse team today and you start dying or you start getting wrecked. For some people, this might be the very first time, and for some people, they're probably just not used to fighting the Multiverse team, so it's okay to fail a couple of times. You could think of this as an investment. You could be losing right now, but in the future, think about all the points that you could be getting whenever you see a really high threat opponent of the Multiverse team, and you're like, yeah, I can beat that. I can beat that really easily and steal all of those points that they're going to be giving me. Again, it's an investment, so don't be afraid to lose right now. You will be winning in the future. Anyways, I hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe and stay clean, and don't forget to like and subscribe.